When Chambers asked me to come and speak, I'd actually planned something completely different. I was looking at something grounded in business psychology, and in this case it was the trans-theoretical model of change, just to show how there's 5 stages to the way we typically adopt a new technology. We'd have had a pretty decent graph, 5 clean stages, something for us as business owners and business leaders to potentially take away and go and apply in the way that each person that we come eyeball to eyeball with in our organizations would be somewhere on that journey, and how to adopt your approach to where they are. And then yesterday I was at an event, thank you Penny, and someone in the room said something to me, a phrase, that made me chuck all of that out the window and said, you know what, I'm going to bin that and come with something completely different. Because look, Penny and the Chambers know when I show up to something, and maybe it's the rugby background, right? In elite sport, it gets drilled into us to always want to do more, to be more, to not just settle. We accept in the elite sport world that you will never actually get to the top. You'll never get to the top of the mountain, so you fall in love with the grind of trying. Which is also why I'm kind of willing to say some of the quiet parts out loud. They know. Some of the other events they've asked me to speak at, I'll chuck the cat amongst the pigeons, not to be confrontational, but because, and in Wales in particular, we are absolutely excellent at pointing out the challenges. And then we just go back to things like normal, right? So here's what I'm going to do instead. I want to take that phrase that they said to me, and I'll tell you what it is. It's nothing too crazy, but a captain once said to us as a team before we played, and we played a very difficult match. It was against Toulon here at the Arms Park. And if you don't know who Toulon is as a rugby team, their owner's a billionaire, and he basically goes and buys the best players every year and puts them in a team, all right? That's Toulon. And our team, who'd been culled, and we're a young and developing team, we're about to go play against these guys. Johnny Wilkinson was one of the guys, Matt Ghetto. I can keep going on the list. Like, I wanted their autographs, and I'm the captain of the team about to go run out, right? But in this case, in that game, Sam had come in. Sam was captain for that match. And I remember him standing as we looked into the tunnel. We're standing there, and he looked at us, and he didn't really always say very much. But in this time, before the match, he looked at us and he said, right, boys, it's time to look into the mirror and decide what we're going to do about it. And off he went. And it was one of those weird things. He didn't say very much, but that stuck to me. And it's kind of why it's easy for me yesterday to go, nope, chuck that one, something different. The moment I heard this phrase. And the phrase was quite simple. We sat at a table, we're having kind of this conversation, and the person says to me, I get it, and yeah, I'm a bit scared about it, but we'll be fine. And the moment she said it, it stuck with me, and here's the reason why. I believe that you will be fine, and I'll be fine, and we will be fine. Because in Wales in particular, we found ourselves this almost comfortable bubble that we're in. And right now, at a time like this, we will be fine, in my opinion, is the most dangerous position for any organization to be. So, with that in mind, let's flip the script slightly, and I'm going to delve into something a little bit different for us for the rest of this session. Now, if we just start off with something basic, just to understand, when I say a time like this, what am I talking about, right? When it comes to adopting technology, if we take something like the radio, how many years did it take the radio to get to 50 million people to use it regularly? The television? Go on, someone have a guess, just because it's fun. Look, I know it's 5 o'clock at the moment. Your cortisol levels are a little bit low. I won't go into that session around fats and how the brain works. That's something completely different. I love neurobiology, by the way. But I want to quickly check with this, the adoption of technology.
30, 40 years for the TV to hit 15 million?
Radio is 32. TV slightly less than that, but you're not far off. It's 2 decades is generally what they're argued about. Some say 15, some say 22. Right? And why 50 million, by the way? Economists will tell you that is kind of the agreed upon statistic when there's been mass adoption of whatever the technology is. You know, even the microwave, or if you're not from Wales, we call it poppity ping. Right? Lovely word, love it. But that 50 million mark. Now, obviously AI and ChatGPT is a subsection of the wider conversation around AI, but what about ChatGPT?
2 weeks.
2 weeks, right? The iPhone was 2 years, by the way, and ChatGPT got to 100 million active users within 2 months. Analysts who've been looking at the internet had said they had never seen, in the 2 decades they've been monitoring what and how we use the internet, they'd never seen anything like it in the way that we adopted that technology. And what makes it really interesting when you start looking at what are people doing with this technology? Now, if we just quickly step into the education sector, and the reason I'm kind of passionate about it is you can go to any event. If you ask somebody, so what do you do for a living? If you say you're in education, you can see the blood just drain out of their face. You know, it's like the one night a week that they get, and now you're in front, right? And yet if you ask somebody, tell me a little bit about your education, we all immediately engage with that. I'll talk about Ken Robinson in a minute because he made that point. And here's the thing that's interesting. My son has just started his school career. He's in year 1. Like that's his first little step onto the ladder, which means he'll likely retire around about 2091. What will the world look like by then? And yet our education system is supposed to prepare him for what is coming. How do we even know? But what are people doing in the education space? Now let's quickly jump over to America. Now, in America, you have institutions like, say, Alpha Academy. Right? So they've taken this technology, they started running with it, and in there what happens is first thing in the morning, the students come in, they put their earphones on, they look at a screen, and for 2 hours they get personalized tutoring by an AI. It adjusts the teaching style depending on each student for 2 hours, and then the rest of the day, teacher's there, but they're not really teaching anymore. They've got a completely different role, they're an educator now. And what happens in that space, the rest of their day is spent around group problem solving, critical thinking, project working, and then life skills, everything from swimming all the way through to how to manage finances. So, and they apparently report that their students across different age groups are scoring in the top 2% across America for the STEM subjects. Right? Let's flip it to somewhere else. Let's look at China. Since 2021, China has been scrapping whole degree courses, mostly in the humanities, so photography, gone. Marketing, gone. Business admin, gone. Foreign languages, philosophy, gone. And instead, they replace them with courses aligned with what they predict the future may look like thanks to AI. So lots of robotics, lots of AI-based degrees. Which is really interesting that they started that in 2021, which was before we knew about ChatGPT. Let that sink in. And at the same time, the IFS released a report last week that showed that for our students studying most of the humanities subjects, which by the way, that's where I come from, right? It's psychology. Right? I'm very passionate about it, and yet that sits within there. They're suggesting that 1 in 4 students who study in humanities will actually end up through the lifetime of their career in a net negative position for having gone to university, if you factor in taxes, if you factor in student loans and tuition. The same courses that China are scrapping, we're still promoting. You can sign up to that university degree literally today. Something's not going. Now you can look at China and their approach, and that would be a different conversation to say, you know, do we agree or disagree with that? That's not what I'm talking about. But if we just look at our students here in Wales, while we're on the topic of education, in Wales, our 15-year-olds across the home nations score lowest for maths, science, and reading. And when you look at the charts, we are falling the fastest out of the home nations for our scores as well. And when you look at it from that perspective, things become very interesting. Because if AI is this incredible technology, but it also has the potential to be massively disruptive, when you look at, for example, the World Economic Forum that says that it will be roughly looking at about 92 million jobs will be replaced by AI. And sure, don't worry, they do make the argument that it'll also help create new roles, but not the same ones, and not for the same people, and not without a fight. So when you then look at it at Harvard, for example, did a study across 62 million workers, And I'll summarize what they found. They suggested that AI is eroding the bottom rung of the career ladder. It's not replacing the boring jobs, it's replacing the entry level jobs. That's what we're automating. And so let me get this right. Our young people who are already behind and falling further behind, and here's us in industry pulling up the career ladder behind us. Something's not right here. And unless we are willing to say the quiet part out loud, this will be an awesome networking event and I'll share some interesting things and then we'll all just move on. And you've got a whole generation looking at us saying, I think we're stuck. And by the way, it's not just the education sector. If we look at what's happening for us here in business in Wales, for every pound an employee produces in the UK, in Wales, we only produce 72 pence. That statistic has been stagnant for over 25 years. Report after report, review after review, recommendations after recommendations. That has not moved at all. And at the same time, if you look at us on a like-for-like basis against people literally just on the other side of the bridge, right? We have fewer startups. And when we do start companies, we don't scale them in the same way that England, Scotland, and Ireland do, or Northern Ireland. Right? Now, we are stuck with that statistic. And I'd like to make an argument. Let's just call it a hypothesis. I don't believe that I happen to have all the answers. Right? But my hypothesis is that we're stuck because of the same issue, just two different phases. Right? If I look at the first phase, Ken Robinson, it's one of the most viewed TED Talks ever. And you go and have a look at it, right? It's all about creativity and the education system. He's pretty funny, by the way. Like some of the jokes he makes, it's an easy 10 minutes to go and watch. But he makes the argument that school doesn't encourage and nurture creativity. Instead, we slowly train it out of our students. Sit still. Be quiet. Color in between the lines. And whatever you do, do not get it wrong. And then we take those students and we bring them into our workplace. And this is where I started to find it quite fascinating. Because if that's the first part, that we literally squash creativity and innovation and make you very careful not to get anything wrong. What happens is, for the second component, when we bring young people then into our workplaces, in the name of efficiency, we do the same thing. Tom mentioned some of that. If you think about it, like economists and business psychologists have known about this since the early 2000s, thanks to complexity theory, complex adaptive systems, and in one of those there's chaos theory, right? And here, it's an easy visual to help explain this, right? We adopted in our businesses a lot of management principles that came from Lean, Six Sigma, just-in-time, a lot of manufacturing things, making us very efficient at what we did. Back then, you start going at policies, processes, right? KPIs. And what that does is it makes us very efficient. And managers in particular love to be in this zone because it gives us a sense of control. If I say to you, every one of your employees from tomorrow can do whatever they want to do. They can come in when they want. They can work and do what they want. It'd feel like chaos. Now, if you create an organization where this is kind of understood, what you would do is that everybody knows we have to work towards a common goal. We have to self-organize within our teams because we have common goals because we want the organization to stay alive. Otherwise, we're all out. So there is that element of stepping outside. There are some organizations and some examples, especially in complexity theory, that really give the full ownership. Very flat organizations, decision is made exactly where the information is. Doesn't have to happen, but there's some awesome examples of that. But in general, if we said all our staff can just go off and do whatever they want, it feels like chaos, and it can turn into chaos. But what chaos theory explains is that actually this is chaos as well. Because this area here, efficiency area, where there's a policy for everything and red tape before any decisions can be made, and reviews after reviews and reports after reports. When change is thrust upon those organizations, they are not able to adapt fast enough because you see on the edge of chaos is where creativity and innovation sits. Our students get told in the classroom not to ask why and what if And when they come into our organizations, we put them in the same thing where we say, hey, don't rock the boat too much. Don't make mistakes, because that'll affect your KPIs. You see, when we bring them into the organizations, we need to tap into that creativity that they bring. But that won't happen if manager over here doesn't feel safe when it's there. We radiate that insecurity off into those around us. And when that happens, they become scared to ask, what if? Or why? How many meetings have you sat in? And it's just bugged you. It's like, I don't know why we do it this way, but you put your hand up and say, hey, whoa, can we just stop this meeting? I just want to quickly check. Like, why do we even do it this way? Or do you go, okay, right, be careful because, he's in the room or she's in the room and I got to kind of, see what I mean? We've all been there. So the same challenge, stifling creativity, and then we get handed probably the single most efficiency-inducing tool in the world, thanks to AI. Polished reports, clean swim lanes, really good visuals for data. And we go and apply it in such a unique way. If you take recruiting, for example. Like, you all know, right? We all know this now. AI is writing the CV for me. The company is using AI to analyze the CV. And what it does is it writes it really well. For most young people, their first interview now is with some form of AI, or at least the AI is recording and analyzing it and putting in a really nice spreadsheet, breaking down each individual. And it's fair because you can ask the same questions in the same way to see what the responses was, represented in a nice clean graph, and off it goes to manage. AI has made us very good at being judgmental instead of being curious. How many of you have sat in an interview and it wasn't the candidate on paper that was the best, but somehow they said something, they responded to something in a certain way, and you went, this individual will be great in my team. I just know it, I have that feeling. AI would look at that, and here's the challenge for us, right? Imagine you're a young person already behind and falling behind faster. You're applying for absolutely everything you can, and you find out that a machine has made the argument that you're not worth a conversation. How must these young people feel? So it's not all doom and gloom. I know I can keep going down with the statistics that kind of, for some people it scares us. For others, it's like, well, okay, I may as well give up now, right? I'm not going to do that. There is a positive side to it. I'll pull that in a sec. There is a positive side to it, and it comes with a bit of a red flag to go with it, but hang in there with me. You see, for the first time in the roughly 20 years of a working career that I have, the advantage is not going to go to the biggest organization. It's not going to go to one with the most resources or the biggest team. It's going to go to the team that can adapt. It's going to go to the organization that's built their team around the 3 C's. Creativity, collaboration, and, sorry, just 2 minutes. Okay. Creativity, collaboration, and curiosity. If you can tap into those 3 and build your teams around those, AI becomes a very helpful tool to harness. So I'm going to leave you with 3 things. Right? When it comes to how we take on this challenge around AI, number 1 is a big ask for me. And I know this is a big ask because if all of us make mass redundancies, everybody sees it. But if you choose not to open up new opportunities for graduates to come get some work experience, if you don't work with educational institutions to come and get some apprenticeship training, nobody's going to know. But what you will be doing while there's a whole generation looking at you is you're going to be pulling up that career ladder, the same ladder that each of us stood on at some point to get to where we are today. We're going to pull up that ladder behind us. Please, let's not do that. Okay? Go work with the academic institutes, work with the government projects. I know Penny can tell you a great deal about a project that they've got going on right now with the chambers. Tap into that. Don't let this be our starting point when it comes to this disruptive technology. The second component is be curious, not judgmental. About these young people that can write you a really good email, but if you ask them a difficult question in person, right, you see that rabbit in the headlight, let's be curious, not judgmental. And not just about them, about the academic institutions, about the government and their approach to what they're trying to do, and about each other. And the final thing is, be really careful that we don't make the conversation, the recommendations, the deliverable. We've all been there and we've done that and seen it over and over again, and it doesn't move the needle, not one bit, and it hasn't for 25 years. And another report or another review will not move the needle. Now, I actually wanted to finish off by showing you what is possible with a very small team if you combine those 3 C's and take something that someone said is absolutely impossible and prove them completely wrong. But I know we've gone over time a little bit, so I will pause it there. But I will just say this. A simple exercise, and I'm going to give you this one even if I run out of time, because it has been the single biggest investment I have made in my business. Not just for us to make us more productive and to win more contracts, but actually for me to learn about my team and what makes them tick. Single biggest investment I've made over the last 3 years. Every Friday, we get together for 2 hours. It's called This Week in AI. And it's an opportunity for anybody in the team to just put something on the table, something they saw, something they tried and broke, something really funny, something that really worked, something they and someone else partnered together with and created. Right? Our creative director, who used to in a previous life film music videos and documentaries, he took an AI tool and built a whole song. The lyrics, the chorus, the bridge, all of that stuff, created that. And then he made a music video, and all of us are little cameos inside it. You can't quite see us, but we all know who's everybody. And then for pure fun, he submitted it to a film festival. Lemon at the Laundromat has now won 4 international awards in India, Australia, America, and in Cyprus. It's had numerous special mentions. Right? And the thing I'm absolutely most proud of came from those same type of sessions. About 2 years ago, we looked at young people and realized that for most of them wanting to explore the world of work, it is still very text heavy, the websites they get to go on for resources. And because we built virtual reality training simulations for the military, for police, for fire services, we wondered, could we use that technology? Can we be curious to try and create them an interactive platform that they can go explore the world of work rather than search and find information? Because remember, AI isn't just all these reports and the data analytics. If it could predict the next word in a sentence, could it predict the next pixel in a picture? We started there. That's the bit where we started going 3 years ago. And now we're building visual and audio engaging platforms using AI. There's a whole new component to AI as well. And consider how that may change the way we learn in school and the way we change in the way that we learn in the workplace. And from that, when we did our feasibility studies, a company that has built a version like this 2 years ago had said what we had in mind would cost around about £800,000 and would take quite a significant team to build. Well, we were curious, so we went and built it anyways. And then we built Careers in 360, 8 times bigger than what they said. And actually, as of tomorrow, we give it away for free to every student in Wales. Every college, every university, every school student now has access to it for free. And here's why that's important. It's not because I want to brag about it. The reality is, and I know this is going to sound cheesy, but hang in there with me as I land the plane for us. AI doesn't just allow you to make a new product. It allows you to make a difference. I know that's cheesy. I know it's a soundbite, but I want you to just hold on to that for a second. AI doesn't just allow you to make a new product. It allows you to make a difference. If you utilize the productivity gains that you make because of AI and you utilize it to invest in your team, a little bit more of personal communication or personal connection, or if you take that little bit of time to open up opportunities for young people to come and explore and you show them around and you actually take them into that journey to go be curious, it is remarkable what can happen. And like I said at the start, as Sam shouted at us before we went and ran out in the field. We lost the match, by the way. But maybe it's time we look in the mirror and decide what are we going to do about it. As our team, that's kind of our starting point. We love that, and it has been the single biggest investment for us. And that's the bit I'd love to take for you. Thank you, guys.